We are terribly obsessed with knowing the results of our decisions. We're obsessed with finding answers. And it's this obsession that causes us to not find any results or any answers in the first place, because overthinking just causes us to be stuck. It causes us to be paralyzed in fear. We think, what if I make this choice and then the wrong thing happens? What if I don't make the choice and then the wrong thing happens? So it's this overthinking process that can actually make us feel stuck. What's important for us to do is to make a decision to move forward. It's more important to make a decision because that is when you will find out what is going to happen. Our mind is the ultimate tool of creation. So you can think of your mind being like a magic wand. If everything is mental, if all is mind, and if consciousness creates reality, overthinking is like having a magic wand, a tool for creation, and throwing a bunch of spells all over the place. You're scattering energy every which way. Every thought shapes your reality. Every single emotion shapes your reality as well. Whether you are doing this consciously or subconsciously, overthinking can cause an energetic disruption in your transformation process. And this energy you have is required for shaping your reality itself. It just needs to be focused and channeled into the right thing. On my channel, I help you to let go of the past in order for you to get into the life that you want to create for yourself. I do this by applying ancient myths, stories, allegories, and philosophical ideas, and apply them to yourself on a very individual level. When it comes to anything in life, too much of anything is not a good thing. But sometimes overthinking is one of those things where you can't escape. With food, maybe you can stop eating so much, you can get away from food, but you can never get away from your own head. You cannot take a vacation somewhere because if you go flying to Hawaii, then your mind will go there with you. Now, every single thought that you have and every idea that you have matters. Now, when it comes to manifestation, every single thought and idea or belief that you have will not manifest. But this doesn't mean that it's not important. Because just because something doesn't manifest in physical existence doesn't mean that you don't feel the symptoms in real life. So for example, if you're somebody who catastrophizes, let's say you're always scared about a bear attacking you. A bear doesn't literally have to attack you in real life because you are feeling all the symptoms as if a bear was there. So in your experience, you felt the whole thing from start to finish. There might as well be a bear right in front of you because you feel paralyzed. You might feel like you have a headache. You might feel sweaty. You might feel all the symptoms and you might feel like you want to run away. And this is how that manifests. It manifests within your body with real physical symptoms. So while there may not be an actual bear manifesting in your life anytime soon, you have manifested the actual symptoms. So overthinking is one of those things that we must learn how to get under control. If not, it's going to drive us wild. Now, thinking itself can be very tricky because if you have a mind that races, you cannot simply tell yourself to stop thinking because it doesn't work that way. Your mind will not respond to a command such as, okay, let's stop thinking right now. What you must do is actually think about something else. And this is where it can become a battle between you and your own mind. And this is where a lot of people get into struggling with themselves and using a lot of willpower to try to get their mind to shut up and stop talking. Because then you get into, how do I get my mind to stop thinking? If only I could stop overthinking, everything would be much better. But it's not thinking itself that is the problem. It is that downward spiral. There are actually two ways of thinking, if you could even call one of them thinking. There is a conventional way of thinking, which is governed by our left part of the brain, which is governed by logic. And then there is another way of thinking, which is more abstract. Now, typically when we think using our logic, this is how we get into finding the results. We are obsessed with finding the end result or trying to break down everything in our life like if it was a math problem. There are very appropriate times to use logic when thinking. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use any logic at all. What I'm saying is we typically bring the logic part into overthinking and thinking about things that do not require logic. It is in our better interest to think as simple as possible. We use our entire brain, our entire mind, and our entire being into thinking, so much so that we feel physical symptoms such as headaches, even rashes. One of the secrets to stop overthinking is to simply feel, or in other words, simply do. And that happens to be the slogan of Nike, which is funny. Just do it. Now, the reason this is such a big deal is because when you do, then it leads on to a chain reaction of results, of an actual process of finding answers. Bruce Lee in one of his movies said, "Don't think, feel." And this also happens to be a secret of manifestation, to simply feel. Bruce Lee, being a martial artist, understood that it's important not to overthink. Because when you're fighting somebody, you don't want to be thinking what you're going to do. You want your body to react in just the right way in order for you to move instinctively and subconsciously for your own benefit. And this is one way overthinking can harm you, because overthinking is very slow. You want your body to react and simply be and simply do. Feeling is governed by the right side of the brain. This is where all the magic happens. This is where the imagination is. This is where our abstract way of thinking is. Now, typically we're caught up with overthinking because we're very logical many times. We think, well, I want to find the end result of what my decision is going to be. We break down our life as if it's a math problem. Like we must separate the equation and then break it down and then solve it. And then we can break the other part down and then do some other math in order to get to an end result. But our life is not a math problem in this way. It is a complex equation that keeps on breaking up into more equations. So ultimately there is no final answer. The final answer is just a perpetual thing that keeps going forever. So to be obsessed with finding answers is fruitless, because you're going to be wasting a lot of mental energy, which is exactly what happens. So now, saying to just act and simply do would sound like I'm saying that we should all just be impulsive and do whatever it is we want to do. But what I am saying is, to do simply means to act on the closest thing that is in your heart and using your intuition to guide you. Your intuition is accessed through your right side of your brain, through this feeling aspect. And you can access this by doing some simple things like meditating. Now, your mind is the living temple. As I mentioned earlier, your mind is like a magic wand. This is where all the magic happens. It is the thing that you create out of. In the Bible, this is described as the temple. And on the sides of our head right here, this is known as the temples. And then in the middle is the temple. This is where it all happens. This is the seat of creation, and this is where God dwells, in other words. Now, overthinking is described in the Bible as the money changers buying and selling in the temple, which is your own mind. So Jesus actually goes into the temple himself, and he starts flipping tables, and he gets mad at everybody, and he tells them to stop buying and selling in this sacred place known as the temple. Now, this is another way of saying that we shouldn't overthink. We should stop all the noise. Another thing when it comes to overthinking and the way it's described in the Bible is marrying and giving unto marriage. This is another way of describing that, because our thoughts give birth to new thoughts. So there is a constant exchange. It's like buying and selling. I will give you this for that. And that's exactly what your thoughts do when they're left unchecked. They're allowed to multiply and become bigger, and they can just develop their own set of thoughts and sub-thoughts. So you start off with one thought, and then it just branches out, and then you don't even know how you got to this point now where you're just overthinking about something that's completely unrelated. Another example in the Bible would be Solomon's temple. And mystically speaking in the Bible, this is why Solomon had many wives. It is said he had hundreds of wives, and then he had hundreds of prostitutes. Now, this just represents more ways of thinking that brings you into many divided states of being. This is your temple, your mind. And in the Bible, Solomon's temple was a place that was built with no tools of iron, and it's supposed to be built in silence. Now, these two things are very important, because in order to build yourself up, to become a master of your own mind, to become a master of your own reality, you must have silence, and you mustn't use tools of iron, which simply represents not having to use willpower to shut your mind up. It is a letting go process. It is a process of simply being and letting things be and allowing things to just flow. Now, one of the greatest stories ever on overthinking is told in the Bhagavad Gita. It is a very profound spiritual lesson on overthinking and the paralysis it creates within all of us. So the story starts out with Arjuna. And Arjuna is going to fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. Now, Arjuna was a great warrior. Arjuna was fighting because he wanted to restore justice. He wanted to fulfill his duty as a warrior. He wanted to defend his honor and his family. So there was a war between two factions, the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Arjuna was on the side of the Pandavas, and the Kauravas were another side. Now, the opposite side of the team, they ruled with greed and corruption and oppression. Now, Arjuna and his brothers were fighting to restore rightful rule and protect people from tyranny. and any attempt at peace was not to be had whatsoever. War was the only way to resolve this conflict. So Arjuna, being a great warrior, stands on the battlefield, ready to fight, ready to destroy anybody who gets in his way. But on the other side are his family members, teachers, and loved ones. And as he looks around, he becomes completely overwhelmed with fear, with doubt, and moral confusion. And this is when he starts to overthink. He starts asking himself, what if I'm wrong? What if this battle destroys everything that I love? Is it really my duty, or am I being led by my ego? And he's asking himself all of these questions because he's caught in a mental conflict. Arjuna is consumed by lots of fear, the fear of consequences, the fear of the results and the decisions he's about to make. So this overthinking process completely paralyzes him, and he refuses to fight. Now Krishna, who is his friend and his guide, who represents divine wisdom, intuition, and higher consciousness, Krishna being related to Christ, steps in and helps Arjuna and gives him the key to breaking free from overthinking. Krishna tells Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield, you have the right to perform your duty. You are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. So we all have our own individual decision to make, and we shouldn't focus too much on what the results are going to be of our actions. Overthinking happens when we obsess over the results too much, instead of taking the necessary action or our duty to fulfill. So Krishna teaches Arjuna that the way to inner peace is to act with full effort and full devotion, and to completely let go of the attachment you have to success or to failure. Krishna also reminds Arjuna that it is his duty to act. It is his true purpose. Arjuna is a mighty warrior and he must fulfill this role. Krishna tells Arjuna that fear is simply an illusion of the mind. Overthinking often happens when we resist our true nature. So in reality, he is saying that all of the fears that Arjuna has actually come from his ego, which is closely connected to illusion. And this is a quote from the Bhagavad Gita. This is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, and he says, the mind is everything. If you control it, it will be your best friend. If you let it control you, it will be your worst enemy. True wisdom comes from your ability to surrender and to give your decisions up to a higher intelligence or a higher power, and not to be concerned with the end result of your actual decision-making process. So after Krishna has spoken to Arjuna, Arjuna knows his duty, and he is filled with fervor, and he enters into the battlefield fulfilling his purpose. And he does it not with his ego or not with anger or anything like this. He performs his duty from a place of trust, focus, and higher consciousness. Now we are all Arjuna, and Krishna is that guide within us. That is Jesus Christ, our consciousness, who is always trying to guide us through our intuition to make the right choice, to always lead us into the right way of being. And this is done by the right side of the brain, by activating those centers. The truth is, we don't need to control everything that happens in our life. Just take action and let go of the results. Doubt is a trick of your mind, and you don't need to be listening to all of those tricks that your mind plays on you. The more you let go of outcome, the freer you become, and the more yourself you will be. It could be that you're living an illusion of someone you think you are. We're often very hesitant to let go because we think that we will lose ourselves, but this is just a trick. The more you let go, the more genuine and honest you will be, and the more comfortable you will feel within yourself. Now, in the beginning of the video, I mentioned that to stop overthinking, all you need to do is to think about something else. Whether you are just overthinking and you can't make a decision, or you are simply catastrophizing and you are looking at everything in a negative light, you have to think about something else. You will replace what you are thinking about with something else. You can compare it to replacing a light bulb. If you have a light bulb that doesn't work, you would switch it out for something else. You don't try to make that light bulb work anymore because it's not working for you. The way that you are thinking is stopping you from achieving what you want. So you have to think on something else. And this takes some practice because when you are used to thinking a certain way, then this is just the natural way you have of looking at life and experiencing everything around you. At first, it's going to be difficult to think about life differently. So if you think that you're always going to be attacked or you feel like you're always in harm, you're catastrophizing, it's beneficial for you to think that something good will happen to you instead of something bad. Now, this can be hard to do sometimes when you are first starting out because it's going to feel like you're going against yourself. But that is the point, to think on something else and go against what you have been used to thinking this whole time. It is just a gentle push in the right direction. And now to wrap up overthinking, I always think about the Jungle Book when it comes to thinking and overthinking and letting things just be. And that is the song in the Jungle Book, the bare necessities. And in the movie, Baloo, who is the bear, says this in the song. Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. And in the chorus of the song, he says, the bare necessities of life will come to you. They'll come to you. And in the end of the song, I feel like is the most important part. He says, just try and relax, cool it. Because let me tell you something. If you act like the bee acts, you're working too hard. And don't spend your time looking around for something you want that can't be found. When you find out you can live without it and go along not thinking about it, I'll tell you something true. The bare necessities of life will come to you. That's a very hidden message and very useful information, because once you let go, what you are looking for will find you. You will not go looking for something that you cannot find, that will be impossible to find through the act of trying to look for it or overthinking about things. As soon as you let go, that thing you are looking for will be right in your hands, manifested. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments in the comment section below. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you guys have. Like this video and subscribe for more videos like this. And thank you guys for watching.